Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Today is Friday, January 28th. So I've been staying awake till like 9 or 10 in the morning, then falling asleep, and then having a stream at like 8 in the evening. Friday streams tend to not get very many views anyways, so I figured let's try something different. In a lot of ways, I'm gonna try some different things in the next week or two with the release of the solo stories, which all of these solo stories I have cleared, not completed. What is unique here is that this solo story is actually two stories in one, because I really wanted to tell a much longer tale and give you a lot more duels than any of the other solo stories, which barely gave you, I'd say 3 duels and 3 story sections. For comparison, we'll just like pick one at random here, just to show what the other solo stories are. So the last one, yeah, almost every other solo story is this way: a scenario, a practice, which is a scripted duel one turn kill puzzle, but they tell you exactly what to do, so it's not really even a puzzle. Then you have a easy, medium, and hard duel, and then the goal wraps up what are typically incredibly bare bones stories. Having cleared everything, I have a whole bunch of this extra currency, really for no reason, because you can't use it for anything else other than opening potential gates that happen if Konami adds potentially new content, which is a question, certainly, that you're going to run into this problem where Konami really hasn't earned the faith of anybody. So if 3-4 months down the line there's not any new content to this game at all, and this is just a blatant cash grab, it'll be pretty easy to burn out on this game. And already I'm banging my head trying to beat some of these duels in the solo mode, and it's just not particularly a good experience, because like I've hit a plateau as far as how many cards you can have in free to play mode, and daily quests are only going to get you so far, to get gems to open more things. I am, if I continue to play ranked, gonna make it to 100, level 100 in the battle pass. But they went for this maintenance mode, and then the maintenance really only had you download half a megabyte of changes. But after maintenance mode, there's just been this just constant level of updates in less than 48 hours of just new issues being identified, and they're kind of categorizing it, so mostly under issues with cards and duels. So like there's a lot of feedback here, but there was no reward for maintenance mode compared to, say, my favorite cell phone game, Destiny Child, where every time you go into maintenance mode, there is a compensation for, even if that maintenance mode was only 5 minutes in it and you couldn't play for 5 minutes, they will give you a very standard, very generous amount of items. Issue 5 has been added here, so we have yet another issue. Duel may result in loss of progress when activating Rivalry of Warlords. This issue has been fixed. So like issue, I think 3 was there before the maintenance, but issue 4 and 5 are new, and they've already been fixed. 3 may be new too. So it does seem like they're working on things, but it also very much seems like the game is just in this beta. They've got a problem getting to platinum tier 5 now, which we're not to that point. We may never be at that point. My network is still a mess. The ISP people were supposed to show up, and they gave no confirmation that they were ever going to show up, and they gave no direct communication that they were not going to show up until I went and looked on the customer service website and found that they had just postponed it. Which I'm not even really too upset with the fact that they postponed sending out a serviceman, because they don't need to really send out a serviceman to my house. This is clearly a problem with their backbone, their part of the network, their servers in their central location. The thing I'm upset about, though, is it's been a week. Like, it's been a full week of these consistent network drops, and that is just unacceptable. And sure, they may try and claim, well, we still have 99.9% uptime. Doesn't matter what numbers you can manipulate to get to an uptime rating. You have dissatisfied customers, not just me even. Other people have been complaining about it also. And you have dissatisfied customers, or my ISP has had dissatisfied customers for a week, which is ridiculous. My old internet service provider, while incredibly slow in comparison, had way better consistency. They said they were going to get rid of this whole room system. Seemingly they didn't in the way I thought they would, and they said they would get rid of dual history temporarily for both of those things, and it seems like that is still a thing. I've unlocked, I suppose, a lot more of these icons, if any of that matters. I think Rydo is probably the only one you can just kind of identify from a distance, and then the soccer ball and skates really don't even make any sense to Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's see. You know, I have frame 1, frame 2, and frame 3. We haven't gotten any more titles, and I've gotten several more mates. We could try that. I haven't gotten any more monster arts. There are some things in the solo mode once I complete everything, instead of just clearing everything, that will unlock. But generally speaking, I have 6,000 gems for the next battle pass in like 60 days when that comes, and 3,000 gems for whenever the next big thing happens. Like, arguably, if I was rolling in gems, I would try and open some of these and get more of these cards, but otherwise the only other option would be this, and I have probably too many of these cards to justify opening any more packs of this. Like, you'd just be chasing after Unreals. I have 1 hour left for this secret pack, and then that'll probably be the last time I ever get a secret pack unlocked. And it's still not really the best time to open the legacy packs, because you could do better. I did choose to buy each one of these bundles 3 times. That just effectively lets me own 3 of each of these decks, and just now there is this tier of cards that I already have. None of this is really worth spending gems on unless we were rolling in it, and I guess I have 3,000 gems that could also go to a bundle deal if any new bundle deals happen. And it seems like around the end of March We are just about starting February in a couple days. Around 2 months from now will be the next point when we are getting a new selection pack, or maybe the sale of gems ends. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this is really where the end of March is when they really start to push Master Duel, if they ever are going to push Master Duel. If there was going to be a gift or a compensation for maintenance mode, it would have been in that gift box. Deck wise, I'm still working on this deck to summon Exodia, and it's maybe getting a little bit better, but not by much. And see, I don't have any extra cards at all to dismantle. And I really won't have extra cards. So it's just this remaining crafting points and the remaining gems. And that is kind of just the plateau. And as far as playing, going forward, I'm just going to immediately jump into duels and start a duel. In these streams, because there's really no catch up. These past 11 minutes should also be taken as the accountability section, because that is all I've been doing as far as recording. Although, because my internet's been messed up and because I needed to do it anyways, I also have been scheduling some videos. So if you look at my channel, there are several videos that are going to premiere, including the solo story modes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters starting Monday. And since Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel has this rotating main title screen, that gave me the opportunity to make screenshots and actually have custom thumbnails for those 10 or 11 episodes. Now, can I do that for any other series? No. In a lot of cases, I just haven't had the put in the time and effort to try and figure out how to make custom thumbnails in an efficient way, and it seems like in a lot of cases it just won't be efficient. And on top of that, I would need a custom thumbnail, or at least a series of custom thumbnails to cycle through. Even in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Master images, I had to cycle through most of them twice because there weren't enough screenshots. But that is yet another experiment that I'm going to do here, is just to see if custom thumbnails tells the algorithm to actually suggest my videos to people. But I definitely do have a feeling I may just be an incredibly insignificant small fish when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to playing Shadowverse. Like, I may have been a medium fish in a small pond when playing Shadowverse, where I am maybe a minnow in the ocean when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or, frankly, there may just not be any level of fandom that actually exists for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's totally possible that my nostalgia and the fact that there was a cartoon out there has blinded me to the actual level of fandom to Yu-Gi-Oh! There were plenty of cartoons out there when I was a kid, watching cartoons that got aired on TV, and there was seemingly no real enthusiasm behind them. And if you just look at like adult focused television shows, you can see a lot of that too, where a lot of shows get made not because there's enough of a fandom to justify that, or enough of an audience to justify the show being made, but because the producers and the production companies wanted to make a TV show, or just needed to fill a time slot. Theoretically, over the weekend, I will get back to playing Fallout 3, and hopefully I haven't lost all momentum in that. If anything, I've been kind of forced to take a nice little break. But there is also a danger where I still need to put some extra effort and time into trying to get all the solo mode done in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, but also get the solo mode done in Shadowverse so I can finish the story mode in Shadowverse too. I definitely am not going back and doing dailies or doing any of the special events for Shadowverse, but I would like to wrap up that story for the latest chapter at least. Moving on, much to my own surprise, the Lunar New Year sale is going on Steam, which the Lunar New Year sale kind of always catches me off guard. Although, in all fairness, it is just like not usually offering that good of deals, and it's offering deals at a kind of bad time. Most Westerners are still reeling at this point too from overspending from Christmas. I'm personally overspending on things I wanted to buy at Christmas but put off for a month or so. So yeah, there's definitely some issues, to say the least. Around potentially thinking about buying games. Like the games I bought in the Christmas sale, I haven't gotten anywhere close to even touching them. And once I start actually scheduling some of the videos I'll schedule, I could be easily 6 months ahead with everything, and yeah, I may even want to start thinking about trying to add a third time slot. Alright, well, with that I have lost his ability to destroy 2 of the spell cards, has broken the only strategy that the structured deck has. If I could have gotten this to the field, I could have paid 2,000, destroyed everything on the field, and maybe devastated his strategy. He still would have had 3 cards, and I imagine some of these cards in the graveyard or banished might play some role also. So we can see they are changing up how the Steam site looks, and again, notice how this is totally a very, very dark blue, only a slight hue of blue, mostly black in the background, and then the Lunar New Year sale is going red, which of course it would for the Lunar New Year sale. Which at some point you would have called that Chinese New Year, but I suppose it is more accurate to call it the Lunar New Year. I'm not sure which year it is either. I think it might be the cow. They're giving away a free web chat. Maybe it's the tiger. No, it's got to be the tiger, come to think of it, because Lego put out this Lego set of a tiger, and it's everything everybody's been talking about around the Lego community for the past month or two, particularly because they used a pink flower to represent the tiger's butthole, and people have been making a lot of memes and jokes around that. Scrolling down here to the point shop, doesn't look like there really is much of anything else new. It's just the same old, boring, pointless items. But yeah, they are changing the way they're presenting things a little bit here. Let's go ahead and just jump in. It seems like the monolith is quiet enough to be our new mate, and I like the way the monolith looks. But you can see how that entire game really only gives you like 100 rewards. It's not a lot. So yeah, I really have no intention of purchasing anything right now. This Command & Conquer Remastered is $6.99. You can also get it, I think, fairly cheap on Amazon.com as a code for Steam. I saw that on Slick Deals. See here that they are specifically promoting digital gift cards, which is not something we've seen in previous sales. But it makes a lot of sense because you, for Chinese New Year, maybe getting gift cards and giving it to other people is a smart way to go. But yeah, it's not like there's been any major AAA or AA games that have even come out between the Christmas sale and this sale. The Yakuza 0 at $5 sounds good. Control at $11.99 still a little expensive in my opinion. I imagine you would want to focus specifically on trying to see if there are particularly Asian games that are on sale for this sale. You can see under top sellers here, there is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is a top seller, is a free-to-play game, which I guess top seller effectively means top most number of downloads for a free-to-play game. This game is overwhelmingly positive, God of War, but not discounted one bit. Effectively, you have 6 chances at most with this deck to summon the top level ritual monsters, and you would only get potentially 6 of them on the field through one game if you had the field spell, which you very often won't even have that. And then you have like this ritual buster that only helps you so far. Right. Now we can activate this. Let's see if he wants to chain it with anything. And we'll see if we can special summon this one by sacrificing this one. But we can't activate this trap that we've already set. Yeah, I'm just scrolling down. What is this? Yeah. Well, I've just scrolled down like all the way to this point, and everything below that is just an infinite scroll. And I am really not seeing anything of major interest. So it does definitely feel like they're not pushing a curator section or anything like that. They want you to go into these subcategories, but they've kind of failed miserably, I would say, with these subcategories and genres and themes. Of all these themes, I think most people who know me know that I would probably only be interested in looking at visual novels and anime games for the sell. You can just kind of see what's happening there. Problem particularly is most anime games are going to be Japanese games. Most Japanese games are run by incredibly greedy companies that won't put things on discount. Jump Force here at $6 might be worth it, except for the fact that they're taking down the servers, I believe, for that, so you won't be able to play any multiplayer with it. You can see on the discounts here, not a lot of discounts. Naruto, Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I guess the question would be, is any of the DLC from Dragon Ball Fighter C on sale? Because that's the more expensive things. And then there's just these coming soon games. So yeah, it's kind of basically nothing. And this is the Steam Labs Experiment 13 showing this different presentation of just like more of a full screen presentation of what the top there looks like. So maybe if I didn't have that Steam Labs enabled, things would look a little bit different. But they are definitely failing to have a category and then have something under the category, or have a way to click on this and stay on the same page and just quickly load another category. See if we went and looked at like our wish list. It's apparently going to take forever, or maybe the network's just messing up there. So yeah, sort by, well, it doesn't want to seem to even work. Well, for one reason or another, it's just not letting it. It's not letting me, like, it's not letting me get to it. Yeah. So I can't even really see the discount at that point. But like I was saying, it's just not really worth my time anyways. I seriously doubt I'll be buying anything in this sale. There's also a case where the whole the May the 4th be with you Star Wars sale might happen, and I might want to try and grab a couple of Star Wars games I don't own, but that's about it. I'm pretty much out of the business of buying video games, at least until Thanksgiving. Suppose I should mention Giant Bomb is finally doing their Game of the Year, but then they made a mockery of their own presentation by having the first category on the first day be a 15-minute comedic bit about them picking which letter of the alphabet is going to be the letter of the year, and it was really just them making fun of all the things that they're going to say they've said in previous Game of the Years, and all the things that they're going to say in this Game of the Year as they debate actual games and which should win their award, which is not really worth anything anyway. There's this app, Mirror News Center, and I know there was that lewd game called Mirror that came out on Steam, but it had the girl, a like Japanese girl tied up in ropes and shibari as the thumbnail, but it doesn't look like that's this. And for a second there, I thought this might have to do with like Black Mirror coming back, but or for a second I thought it might even be a like news crawler desktop ticker, like I have that is at the top of my screens when I look at apps. But I mean, that wouldn't be a terrible app if somebody made something a lot better than what I have and made it easier to implement and do more things. Alright. This won't work. But this will. Summon this. Sacrifice this. Put this on the field. And then in the turn, and watch as they defeat that strategy completely. Let's see. I'll scroll down here and look at visual novels in comparison for what's on sale. Danganronpa Volume 5, 60% off might be alright discounts, because you're not going to get much better than that. Ace Attorney. I could buy Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, but honestly, I don't have the budget for it just to buy that one thing. If somebody bought this for me and gifted me, that would be great, because I know at least a couple people want me to play this. This game, Nope Nope Nurses, there was something about it, but I never got the full story. Here's the game Mirror for 79 cents that apparently I picked up at some point. Which you would think picking up a game would stop them advertising it to you on these kinds of pages, but apparently not. And then here you have like Witches Sexual Prison. I shouldn't hover over these because they may not be YouTube family friendly. There is a show more button too. Let's see. These have some kind of thing on them. What is this? Zombie. Can this attack? What is this icon? So it can attack, it just has something on it. Some kind of token that obviously I wasn't paying attention to. Okay. Then here, 1700, 2300 by sacrificing 2. I don't really see reason to do either one of those, so I'll just end the turn. The visual novel category does have more showing versus the anime game category. In fact, seems like they're trying a lot harder to sell visual novels. Which, honestly, if that's all it wants to be, by all means, there's more than enough visual novels that come out on a yearly basis for the Lunar New Year to be particularly focused on that. And see, I clicked that show more. This is that War and Roses game that they actually reviewed, and was the reviewer, YouTuber I saw that reviewed it, hated it, said it was an awful game. Alright, well, let's see. How this goes. Freaking see all. Interesting. So the Fighter Z Pass is 50% off. Pass 3 is 50% off, so I could buy 10. I could put $10 more into getting the third series of fighters for Dragon Ball Fighter Z. The original Fighter Pass, the first one, is $10.49, so it's still more expensive than the second one, and the second pass is $9.99, same price as the third one. So actually I should get the second one first. So yeah, I could put another $20 into a game I may very well never play, but I guess if you get the Ultimate Edition of this, that may include some of these Fighter Z passes, but maybe not. I don't really care about music packs. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other unlocks are redundant. But that would be about the only thing they consider purchasing off the top of my head. I don't know if I even want to mention this, but Susan Wojcicki is maybe going to try to be more on Twitter than she has been in the past, or maybe she's just specifically going to highlight the Holocaust Remembrance Day. Not going to really cover it much, since it doesn't have anything really to do with YouTube or video games. Let's see, but I could be pedantic and point out that I am fairly certain I've seen Susan Wojcicki try to butter up and get YouTube to be less censored and more allowed in some countries that have official governmental stances that are anti-Semitic. But yeah, it's kind of hard to not side with being against the Holocaust. So even as a probably virtue signaling tweet, it's a very safe virtue signaling tweet to make. I don't even know if I want Susan Wojcicki in general to be more on Twitter and more communicative, because I mean, unless 2022 is the year where she turns everything around and gets people to like her as the CEO of YouTube, if somehow YouTube just gets way better under a new era, I think people have probably made up their minds about her a long time ago. I can't think of a situation where any CEO who was already the established CEO came in and started doing things drastically different and better. CEO jobs and positions are just too comfortable and too squishy of jobs for you to try to shake things up if you're already established. I would have more preferred her to have announced a new head of YouTube gaming. Personally, when you have someone saying that they're going to step down, I think they already, in his step down message, said who was going to replace him, but there really doesn't, like, there should possibly been more fanfare around that to say, yeah, things are going to be done differently, like with the new guy, where I seriously doubt it will be done differently. he's going to do enough damage to me in this turn that I won't be able to, well, I won't be able to do anything. We activate this spell. Or activate this effect monster. We get this spell. This lets us then do End of the World. And then he's going to counter it. So all this spell can do is summon this. Because it has to tribute monsters on the field. And this one's ability doesn't do anything to let you like level up to this ability. Major Nelson put out this Transformers Battlegrounds Complete Edition, now available for PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S. This artwork for Transformers Battlegrounds looks really different from any Transformers games I recognize. So it kind of feels like this game must have come out to very little fanfare, because I would have thought I would have noticed the Transformers games that looked like the old Transformer cartoons that had Optimus and Bumblebee and was only slightly focusing in on the lesser known like dinosaurs. Like, I assume this is Megatron. I feel like that's Starscream. I'm not sure who that's supposed to be. But yeah, there's... Might as well play cards before we end the turn at least. But that looks exciting, so kind of sucks that it isn't really that exciting. Let's see. Ubisoft is shutting down this game called Hyperscape, which is something I have never even heard of before, so I really wish uBlock Origin would just block these cookie pop-ups. So yeah. The Pokemon card game, even though I'm not paying much attention to the Pokemon card game and never have, is about to bring out this Sword and Shield Brilliant Stars expansion, which is going to give a whole like V-Star system to it. Definitely the artwork has changed over the years a little bit, but it still kind of feels mostly like Pokemon, although in all fairness, if you showed me this and I didn't know, if you just showed me this image, I would assume this was a new Digimon, not a Pokemon. Same kind of here too. The only real difference that might clue me into being a Pokemon is if you showed me multiple of these characters and I recognize that there aren't any like armor or robotic elements to it, and no angels or anything like that. Like once you see 3 or 4 of them and you see, oh, these are all animals, then it starts to fall down a little bit closer to the path of assuming it's Pokemon. But yeah, I do not recognize any of these. And seeing this art, this is very much like the art I think you would have seen in the original series of Pokemon card games. Of course, this is also the card game, which I assume is fairly consistent now, both from the Western and the Japanese version. But all of that text that was being shown was in English, so this is the Western version that they're highlighting and showing off. GameDeveloper.com has an article here extra that I wanted to make sure I covered. Sega arcades will vanish from Japan as the company has announced today that it is going to exit the amusement business, which that's not super surprising because they had already shut down their major amusement, pachinko, gambling. I think Sega arcades weren't actually pachinko gambling centers, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was in the Sega arcade a floor full of pachinko machines on like the third or fourth floor, and the lower floors were more Sega standard arcade machines that you would think of in the West. I wouldn't be surprised if there was also a whole floor that was specifically dedicated to like crane games. But yeah, with the pandemic potentially permanently changing how people interact around the world, including Japan, it is very believable that even if the pandemic is mostly gone, people will opt to not really go down that path and not go to special places to play video games when they can just do it in more isolated realms. Right, this one should give me back this card, which is what we want, and this one should protect this card. Like, so unless he has a 2300 defense there. Yeah. And the funny thing I think people don't think about here, if I can just put a controversial opinion out there, and I will, how much resources, how much carbon are we putting in the air, how many trees are we chopping down, how much metal and rare earth minerals are we mining to create arcade machines and arcades? It really is a superfluous endeavor, and it should just disappear as a concept. Yeah, I'm not gonna say the arcade industry had any real significant impact on the environment more than any other industry, but it certainly had a significant impact on people's, and particularly kids' pocketbooks and what they spent their time on. And playing video games from home is just a better way to waste time, a more efficient way to waste time. And the just amount of square footage that these Sega arcades are taking up in the middle of like Japan's most densely populated areas, those buildings could easily be turned into apartments for rent-controlled, low-rent apartments for young people, young families in Japan. Not that they are going to do that, but that these resources could be better spent if somebody had a more global perspective on it, instead of just companies like Sega. And I'm not even trying to demonize Sega having only the moral obligation to try to make as much money as possible for the shareholders. Sure, it would be nice if companies like Sega every now and then get artsy and make like museum piece style arcade machines that get put in rotation amongst kids' museums, but that doesn't mean you need 100 units of that arcade machine. And there was, particularly in the heyday before there were home game consoles, there was a large amount of just overabundance of arcade machines. Although a lot of arcade machines did get reskinned also. So they convert a machine that's not making profit anymore, just scrape off the side art and change the board on the inside. Let's see. I should have probably... Yeah, it's fine. No, I should have sacrificed this guy first. Because... Yeah. Because what I'm gonna do now is activate this effect to kill that. Finder.com.au, so I assume that's Australia, has this interview where the Ubisoft responds to the angry NFT digits and Quartz reaction. So they talked to Nicholas Pouillard, who is the vice president of Ubisoft Strategic Innovations, and basically says, what I got from this is that people reacted angrily because they didn't understand it, which is really just a cheap cop-out to say, okay, so you failed to explain it and sell your pitch to the audience you're trying to sell the game to, or the concept to, as far as NFTs. I mean, that is a basic school ground complaint, is that, oh, you're just stupid, you don't understand what I'm saying, otherwise you would obviously recognize that I was right and that what I'm offering you is good and something you want. Which, yeah, at some point maybe some audiences are dumb and don't understand things, but I think on the NFT field it kind of doesn't matter. The verdict is in at this point. Nobody wants NFTs. As they've been attempted to be sold, and mostly all they've been tried to be sold as is really as buzzwords and things that people that claim they're going to make NFTs seem not to understand what they are either. But as they've been sold, as they've been explained, as they've been implemented time and time again, there has not been a single instance where somebody's said, oh, well, this implementation of NFTs is actually different and actually makes some sense. Let's do this. Suppose you still want to just special summon this one, and then we'll sacrifice this one and this one. Let it face up. There we go, and he surrendered. Which, when he surrenders, I get rewards still, right? Yep, you get the very massive amount of rewards when you actually get a victory. Yeah, that's going to be a long time before I get this up to level 50. So we get another legacy pack ticket and some more cards. A rare card. Like, there definitely is a problem with these games, though, that they are too slow for potentially having to play 3 or 4 games to maybe get 1 win, to maybe get 1 card. And the pack, they would give you a couple other cards. Yeah, I guess at most you might get 4 cards for 1 win, which is half a pack. Which, if you think of it that way, that actually doesn't sound anywhere as bad as it actually is. Okay. WindowsCentral.com has a report here that Certain Affinity is working on an Xbox exclusive, quote, Monster Hunter-like codenamed Surette, which I assume that's Surety? It's not Surette, it's Surety. I don't know what that would mean. It almost sounds like they're just, once again, trying to do something like Scalebound. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's too early days to really take anything from that, though. At the end of the day, now the question really comes down to what is even Microsoft, since they've acquired so many companies, and they could be working on anything and everything, and it wouldn't surprise me. There probably is going to be 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 6 years down the line, a glut of Monster Hunter World clones, considering how since Monster Hunter World actually came to the West and was actually sold to the Westerners, people actually bought it, and that probably surprised a lot of Western game developers who would have assumed that the Monster Hunter series would have always been too anime, too JRPG for people. Although, in fairness, Monster Hunter World also kind of dumbs down a lot of the systems to be more globally popular. And we've yet to see, I suppose, if they're going to swing back in the other direction to having more complicated systems. Ninja Theory put out this tweet, 500 retweets, and we'll share some concept art, and then, well, that was quick, and then they put out this concept art. Seems this is all for Hellblade, Senua's Saga 2, Hellblade 2. And the concept art is basically showing you nothing. Seems kind of like a pathetic attempt, frankly. Like, there's really no reason to pander for 500 retweets on Twitter. Most people, even people who were the big winners on Twitter at this point, have started to lose interest in being on Twitter. And yet, I would say I still don't have a good thought as far as what new service I would want to jump to. And I guess the bigger question is, what new service, if any, are people jumping to? Because as a small YouTuber, content creator, I don't think I've ever seen any evidence that more than half a dozen people have ever followed me on Twitter or Facebook, or got any notifications from it. I put them out there as ways to help people get notifications the way they want to be notified, certainly, but I have not found a good way to reach people. I've probably reached more people just being on, like, I think I'm on DTube or one of those alternative to YouTube sites. I've probably gotten more views from that, but also I haven't seen any real evidence of that either. Alright, we gotta special summon this. So we gotta sacrifice this. Put this face up. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle has an article here. Blizzard's boss has told fans to stay tuned for Warcraft, Overwatch, and Diablo news. Which Blizzard's boss in this point would be Mike Ybarra, and not the CEO of Activision Blizzard. Stay tuned at this point basically is them just saying we have nothing to announce at this time, which is believable. Yeah, I imagine anything that was even announced right now could be shot down and changed the second the acquisition by Microsoft goes through. So there's really not a lot of reason to announce things unless you just want to announce things and build a bunch of hype so that maybe Mike Ybarra keeps his job, although this acquisition probably heads should roll. So on top of just getting rid of the CEO of Activision Blizzard, the heads of Blizzard and King and any other department heads there, like maybe all of them should be fired. Just one sweeping motion. Honestly, instead of just firing them and making it like a public execution, maybe they should just dissolve the entire company and put ZeniMax and Bethesda in charge of everything. Just keep all the associate level employees that you can and fire all the management in general. Or at the very least, investigate and make all of them re-interview. Like, there really is going to have to be a restructuring that happens at Activision Blizzard once it's acquired in some way, and Microsoft in general could do to restructure a lot of its setup, because they've just acquired so many companies that have so much redundant management stuff. And with all these acquisitions, this would be like the prime situation for Microsoft to have a single QA team that like single quality assurance team at Microsoft that bounce between all the games Microsoft makes would work very nicely. Might be able to win here, but I question it. I won't be able to do my 2000 attack thing, but I will be able to do this, and then this. Nope, he had some effect that defeated me. I feel like I'm doing a little bit better in actually playing today. And yeah, my network is obviously doing a little bit better, but still, I don't think fixed. It might be. Who knows? Video Games Chronicle has an article here. Crusader Kings 3 hits the PS4 and Xbox Series X and Game Pass in March. New footage of the canceled Star Wars 1313 shows Boba Fett in action. If you're interested in checking that out, you can watch that video. Yeah, going forward though, I think I will try to be a little bit quicker when covering these news things. Less scrolling down, less looking at videos, particularly if we're just having to blur out things because of content ID claims. Like, it'd be very nice if there was some way you could make 2022 the year of no content ID claims. That being said, even Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel here, Konami is claiming a video segment that is just the end animation. So I've already had 2 things demonetized effectively, but I'm not in the YouTube partner program, so it doesn't really matter at the moment, but it wouldn't matter in some theoretical future. And I assume that that's something Konami will hopefully address. If they don't, then you might see that the number of people that are willing to actually stream this game is going to dwindle real fast. After 8 years, the Resident Evil 4 HD fan project will finally be released in February. The mod is designed to make the game look significantly better than it ever has. They needed certainly to get this out before the real Resident Evil remake comes out and makes it completely irrelevant. Although it won't be 100% irrelevant, I think there still will be enough people that would there will still be people out there that will want to potentially play this mod. This was a reaction to the official Resident Evil 4 Ultimate HD Edition in 24, which is alright, but not particularly great. The majority of the textures in the Capcom released Ultimate HD Edition hadn't been updated, whereas pretty much everything in this modded version have been just like hand drawn and updated. Now, problematically, not for this version I think so much, but for the actual versions of Resident Evil 4 made by Capcom, there is this accusation of copyright infringement for some of the textures that let's see. Tribute one monster from the hand or field, shuffle one ritual monster from the grave. This level equals or exceeds the level of the monster banished by this cards, and ritual summon that monster. So this was actually what you want to do. Oh. Let's see. Pay 100 life points. Bring that back to the field. Doesn't seem like it's gonna matter much. Unless I can attack here twice. Let's actually watch this video though, because I think it is worth showing off. The thing here is you could kind of see in her ears, and you can kind of see in the edges that the polygon count can't be much better than it is. Textures only get you so far if the polygon count is what is going to stay the same as far as the textures that you put on the polygons. Need to play over here to in the turn just to lose. And then almost certainly they're going to just remake Resident Evil 4 using the new engine, and they're going to change things, and you know, they may just get a little less crazy with it too. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one or two of the monsters that were originally in Resident Evil 4 just not really playing a role and not showing up at all. So yeah, you just kind of don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Ashley as a character has a totally different outfit and her voice acting in the remake gets changed. I wouldn't be surprised if Ashley, as the president's daughter being kidnapped, barely even shows up in the game, or if they completely write her out. I wouldn't be surprised if Puzzles gets changed in the full remake. And see, I'm not 100% sure if Capcom's going to release a full remake. I think that's what they announced they were going to do. Or yet another remaster. No, I think they announced they were going to do another remaster. So I wouldn't be surprised if Capcom releases a remaster heavily relying on this mod content, just stealing it potentially a second time. Or maybe they'll even pay these people to license their effort, because this definitely has been a labor of love just to re-release something else. But you kind of assume eventually there is going to be a full remake following the previous remakes, and that is going to create less of a desire to play the original game with upgraded graphics. And you're going to, either way you're going to go, you're going to get a level of criticism, but it won't be that high. If they do a full remake and totally change the level designs, which I don't think too many people would be complained about, but if they got rid of monsters, got rid of Ashley in a full remake, people would complain about it. But if they just did a beat for beat, shot for shot remake of Resident Evil 4 in a new engine with the same graphics, I think people would complain about that also. What Capcom has been immune from up until this point is those complaints, because Resident Evil 1 and 2 and even 3 were such janky games in the first place that it's not a big deal that they took the spirit of the games and brought them into modernity. Whereas Resident Evil 4 is the most beloved one, and it will be the sink or swim moment for them. I will definitely make sure to try and download this remaster fan mod And it's a good excuse to potentially play the game with the mod enabled instead of just playing Resident Evil 4. Although, yeah, I assume you will. It's a mod, so you're gonna have to own the original version of the game anyways. But yeah. Although I do want to play Resident Evil 4, I kind of would prefer to play Resident Evil 2 instead. And I just haven't bought that game or gotten around to justify playing that. Or Resident Evil 7. Or Resident Evil Village. Like, I'd want to play 7 before Village. Yeah. They also paint themselves in a much worse situation if Capcom, when they inevitably have to release a Resident Evil 4 remake, then they're in a problem where they've got to do something different with 5, really. You're not going to want the same criticisms of 5 brought up again. So they're going to have to kind of rethink everything there and drastically change things. They're definitely going to want to do something completely different with 6 because 6 totally failed. At some point, Code Veronica might buy them some more time, or even remaking 1 again might buy them a little bit more time, but they're eventually going to have to give up on the remakes completely and just focus on making new Resident Evil games. Which, yeah, logically you make Resident Evil 4's remake, and then if it's received poorly, you say, okay, we've got the message, we're not going to make any more remakes, we're just going to focus on new games. If it goes very well, you can say we've topped ourselves and we can't do any better, so we're not going to do any remakes either. Like, you could go either way with it to justify stopping at 4, and I don't think too many people would complain if you stopped at 4. I want this one from the graveyard to be added to the hand, so we can add this to the field. We can activate this, and that's going to protect my cards. Activate this ability to attack twice. Yep. Moving on with news, Naughty Dog isn't ruling out making more Uncharted games, the developer says. Okay. Yeah. That would make a lot of sense. Although there is a real question as far as who is the main character going to be if they make more Uncharted games. And I guess since they're investing in the movie, if the movie succeeds even a little bit, it would be Nathan Drake again. I think it probably would be Nathan Drake anyways. Nintendo's given Animal Crossing Pocket Camp a 3rd paid subscription. The mobile title now has 3 separate memberships costing a total of $12 a month. Which, that's not a lot of money, but that's also kind of not what you want, is a whole bunch of subscription services or microtransactions in a Nintendo mobile game. Nintendo has failed consistently to do anything good or imaginative as far as mobile games, when really they could have swooped in and won the day. You know what, let's just activate this. We'll play some protection here. and destroy his trap card, because that might have been his hope. I'll sacrifice my own card that way and 2,000 life points. Yep, and he's going to activate the trap card to show it would have summoned a creature, which really wouldn't have changed anything anyways. Now that I'm not having consistent network trouble, I can actually get back to just playing the game and play a little bit more. Ranked up to silver tier 3. Are we still in the same time frame? I think we are. I think it ends on the 31st. This is just a neutral card, normal card. Yeah. When does this end? Yeah, the 31st. So if we can get up to gold, that would be great. If we could get the platinum, that would be even better. But like just as high as possible would be great. The game Destruction All Stars is has gotten substantial changes, it sounds like, and it may be going free to play. It's a year-old game. It's gotten a major update. It's also a PlayStation 5 exclusive, which seems like maybe it's going free to play because maybe PlayStation is going to roll out their counter offer to Game Pass, and if they can't have something like Rocket League exclusive to them, something like Destruction All Stars might be a comparable idea. Let's see, activate this effect. Take this. Did I need this card? Not really. I could have taken the other card. Gonna special summon this one. And I guess we'll tribute this. And then do this. And then we'll activate this ability. Then we'll activate this ability. Doesn't really matter the order. Protect that card. It's going to be pretty hard to do a 5-chain spell. You're going to have some cooperation from somebody else also chaining against your chains. Aw, I picked the wrong card, didn't I? I should have summoned this. This only destroys face-up cards. Or I could have attacked and then done all of that and then destroyed that. That would have been another way to do that. Let's see, Video Games Chronicle says, an investigation has concluded Ubisoft Singapore, quote, handled misconduct reports appropriately. The watchdog for fair employment practice also agrees that salaries were performance-based. So, yeah, this is not really having too much to do with the complaints against Ubisoft in France, but it's definitely another instance in which accusations have been made against Ubisoft, and they just have not stuck. So either Ubisoft as a general company, whether it's Ubisoft's main headquarters in France or their Singapore office, either they are just Teflon, or there's just a lot of accusations that are getting over reported by the news. Like, I imagine similar accusations have been made against most game companies. I mean, it's important to realize, yes, a lot of employees are disgruntled by their jobs. And frankly, a lot of employees are justifiably disgruntled, and then they do unjustifiable or wrong things because they're disgruntled. Which is an odd way to justify something that I just said was unjustifiable. But yeah, Singapore probably would kind of love to screw over Ubisoft as a foreign-owned company. Of course, I don't really know. There might be a decent amount of corruption in Singapore. There definitely was some shenanigans that happened that let Samsung become like the biggest company in the entire country whatsoever, and become basically this odd vertical monopoly or horizontal monopoly. I'm not sure which one you'd really call Samsung. But yeah, anything I said past my own speculative observations would really just devolve into the basic guessing. The first Horizon Forbidden West PS4 gameplay footage has been released. I was trying to remember the name of this game because one of the solo stories in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of like this, where there are dinosaurs that are robots that have taken the forms of dinosaurs. Of course, one solo story telling a narrative like that is nowhere close to the 60-hour game of Horizon, the first Horizon game, let alone the sequel that's not even out yet. KO the Kangaroo sequel is getting a new trailer and is confirmed for a summer release. Let's see. Is there an actual date? They don't seem to be saying an actual date. And we already saw that trailer. Well, I've already seen that trailer, so I'm somewhat excited about it potentially being a good game. In the same way I'm excited about all new games potentially being a good game, but I would have to see some reviews and make sure it comes out on Steam. February's free games with Amazon Prime have been announced. It's going to be as far as the Eve, Stellaris, Ashwalkers, and Double Kick Heroes, which, as far as the I, not the Eve, and then Golazo Soccer League. None of those games are recognizable by me at all. There is also a Doom Eternal content pack, a 2-point Hospital Stealth Mode bundle. This Amazon Prime Gaming as a concept, though, has not really succeeded in being other than kind of a easily forgotten about value add for having Amazon Prime, which Amazon Prime, if it weren't for the free shipping, really doesn't have anything that most people want. Amazon Prime Video is pretty awful. It definitely is nowhere as good as Netflix, just because when you're browsing around, there's a lot of extra stuff you can accidentally buy on Amazon Prime's app when there's nothing you can buy on Netflix. It's all included in the Yeah. And the Prime Gaming was only interesting at the very, very beginning when they might have been giving you Steam codes for games, but as soon as they integrated it into their own launcher, which nobody cares about or talks about, then it's just an extra thing. I'm much more focused on getting backup games on the Epic Games launcher compared to the Prime Game launcher. And the only reason they have Amazon Prime Gaming is because they acquired Twitch, and while I can applaud Twitch for not having too much of a controversy in the past couple of weeks, that's about all I can say nice about Twitch, is that they've managed to not have a major controversy since the whole Pokemon being banned for live streaming Nickelodeon cartoons and just blatant copyright infringement. This isn't one of those cases where you're just gonna get one turn killed. Next week's free Epic Games Store title has been announced. There'll be Ukulele and the Impossible Lair, replacing Daemon X Machina. It's an interesting offering, if there is anything interesting about any of these offerings, in that at the very least that opens the door to a lot of people that wouldn't probably ever buy Ukulele and Impossible Lair, or wouldn't want to play it because it starts off with a difficult sounding name, and it starts you going through in a difficult Impossible Lair level that you're supposed to lose at the beginning. But if people get it for free, they may stick with it longer to understand the concept. Even at that, understanding the concept may still not be enough to actually get people to want to play it all the way through. But much like Game Pass games, if you get a game for free and then you play only a couple hours of it, you're not going to be anywhere as upset compared to buying a game and only playing a couple hours of it. There's literally nothing I can do. Hitman 3 Steam owners get a free upgrades after IO quote fails to meet expectations. Our Hitman 3 launch on Steam didn't go as planned. I heard a little bit about this, but not everything. IO Interactive is offering free upgrades to Steam Hitman 3 owners for a limited time following the game's much criticized launch. Currently has a mixed rating on Steam based on 922 reviews with a $60 price tag. It was met with a backlash of fans over the title's pricing, which, yeah, $60 is a little shocking for being out as an Epic Game exclusive for a whole year. And the VR kind of sucks. That's another thing. So Hitman 3 standard owners will automatically get upgraded to the game's deluxe edition, whilst owners of the deluxe edition will be upgraded to the 7 Deadly Sins collection, which this is for people who buy the game through February 19th. Just maybe slightly a better offer, but I don't know. Let's do a little bit of our own research here and just see if we can get to Hitman 3 on Steam. It is the 4th link below Epic Games. This article must have been written fairly recently. So here's Hitman 3 on Steam. You can still see it's 56% positive with 995 reviews, so there hasn't been another review. And the 7 Deadly Sins collection at the moment is $30. If you bought the deluxe edition, it would be $89. Why is the Hitman 7 Deadly Sins so much cheaper? Because it's all DLC. So a $30 DLC. Still kind of feels like you're paying full price even at these free offers. The pricing has just been a nightmare around the Hitman series, and they can't blame anybody else at this point. It's not Square Enix's fault now that do I already own Hitman 1 and 2? Not seeing it listed here. An Access Pass DLC for Hitman 1 and 2, perfect for new players. So this Access Pass is actually putting the levels from Hitman 1 into Hitman 3. It's not actually Hitman 1, which I guess that makes sense because it would be kind of weird for them to sell something in a bundle that would still be going to Square Enix. Basically, they need to see if they could power through and make a Hitman 4 before and try and re-release things and price things right and do it better. The Hitman series, it's just not a good enough series to play these kinds of pricing shenanigans with, and almost certainly I would assume they actually do need the money, but they might as well just tell people, hey, we actually need to charge this much, we're struggling here, we really want you to support us so we can make Hitman 4. But as a series, it's kind of a overly simplified series, and it's not really a game that I think you're going to stick around and play a lot of, except for really big Hitman fans, and there's not enough of them to justify them continuing to make Hitman games. In a lot of ways, the Hitman games are actually interesting scenarios that would work really nicely in the middle of other sections of games. If in the middle of the Tomb Raider reboot, there was a section where Lara Croft had to go to a party and infiltrate the party and rob somebody or assassinate somebody like a Hitman game, that would be great. But then you want your standard running, gunning, and platforming, puzzle solving, and just story narrative that actually makes sense and that people actually want to hear or care about. You need all those elements that are just missing from a Hitman series. Hitman as a game is almost right on the ledge of being a game only for sociopaths who just want to practice assassinating people in their imagination, or real world assassins who want to practice, which there can't be that many of those people out there. Moving on, Microsoft has announced February's Xbox Live games with gold. It includes Broken Sword, Aerial Knights Never Yield, Hydrophobia, and a Band of Bugs. Hydrophobia is one of those games that I've wanted to play for a long time and I've just never really gotten around to it. Broken Sword 5 wasn't my favorite by any means, but if people actually played it and liked it, maybe we could get a Broken Sword 6, and maybe they finally could get back to basics. Although, honestly, I think they could make 10 more Broken Sword games and they wouldn't get back to the writing style that was in Broken Sword 1. I mean, there's been more bad Broken Sword games than there have been good. The other games were Band of Bugs and Aerial Knights Never Yield, which I assume is this game and this game. Let's see, do they show trailers here of what the games actually look like? The Broken Sword 5's animation still was trying to go with like CG animations, and it's just too much polish on something that needed to be lower budget with better writing. This game, Aerial Knights Never Yield, looks like it's a potential infinite runner with a lot of polish around it. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like Mirror's Edge, but 2D, and at that level, it becomes questionable whether you really want to play it. Hydrophobia is a very old game and not done particularly greatly, but at a certain point that's all they can do is bring out older games and see if maybe they can get some interest in them to maybe make remakes or take the concepts that might work and put them in new games. Band of Bugs just looks like it's a positional placement RPG game. We already talked about this. Xbox is reporting on a Monster Hunter style co-op game. I guess cannot do anything there. Here's that article. Less than 2 years after its launch, Ubisoft is closing its Battle Royale game Hyperscape, which I don't recognize this name at all, so clearly they didn't really push it. Like, I don't recognize this art either. So, feels like I probably missed this announcement or completely dismissed this announcement as being like an Overwatch clone that would be a player versus player battle royale game, and those are not the games that I play, so I'm not seeing anything here that looks particularly interesting. It looks like maybe it has some jump pads, and that's about it. Jump pads and neon outfits. Let's see. Death Stranding's Director's Cut PC has been confirmed for March. Will be a $10 upgrade. It'll include support for ultra-wide monitors and more. Honestly, I don't know if the visuals that exist for 90% of Death Stranding would justify an ultra-wide monitor, but then there probably is a lot of overlap of crazy people who love ultra-wide settings and crazy people who love Kojima's visual nonsense. Some of the boss battles in Death Stranding probably would look even better in ultra-wide, but I seriously don't want to see games starting to sell themselves on the fact that they're labeled ultra-wide capable. Moving on, NetherRealm's producer, quote unquote, leaks Mortal Kombat 12. comma, possibly. Deliberately, a photo briefly shown on Twitter includes a mention of a yet-to-be-confirmed sequel, which does... what does that really mean at all? Like, who cares? It was almost certainty that another Mortal Kombat would get made. So, like, so what? Like, which one of these is supposed to be Mortal Kombat 12 even? Is it this photo because we don't recognize this character? Or is it something on the screen here? This could be Cyborg. And clearly you have Wonder Woman here, and I assume that's from Injustice. And then you have just a lot of pictures of the original Mortal Kombat games. You know, there's actually a bit of a controversy around the fact that all of these, the live action actors for Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 that were rotoscoped were just paid a flat rate. And they at one point tried to sue, or are trying to sue at this, maybe they're still trying to do it, to get back royalties for all the characters and things in Mortal Kombat 3. And that very likely is why a lot of the characters have changed in appearance fairly drastically, as far as, and they're definitely not doing rotoscoping. Although, in all fairness, when they bring in somebody and they're doing the whole face scanning thing, that is effectively rotoscoping again. But I bet they have better contracts now. But that might also be why we haven't seen a lot of efforts to re-release Mortal Kombat 1 or Mortal Kombat 2, or remake Mortal Kombat 1 or Mortal Kombat 2. Because it would be fairly easy to do that. And you could, for Mortal Kombat 12 particularly, you could remake Mortal Kombat 1 in a Mortal Kombat 12 engine, have a incredibly small selection of 4 characters, and release that as a free demo of this is what Mortal Kombat 12 is going to be like, without really highlighting or giving anything away. Like, because you would have to pretty much limit a lot of what's going on to remake Mortal Kombat 1 as far as the movesets. And so the combos will be way crazier, one would assume, for Mortal Kombat 12 compared to 1. But the more interesting question certainly would be, is there going to be another Injustice game? And I assume that's the case. I also have to question who owns NetherRealm at this point. We'll do our own research again. Let's see. NetherRealm Studios Wikipedia is Ed Boon, maybe not really doing anything. Yeah, they're owned by Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment at the moment. Warner Brothers is the company that was acquired by AT&T, and they are looking to probably get rid of Warner Brothers in general. So this very possibly is a case where they are intentionally trying to announce a game and get hype around a Mortal Kombat 12 to get a project started before somebody acquires Warner Brothers or the video game division of Warner Brothers, like pretty much everything is being shopped out, it seems like, as far as Warner Brothers, to anybody and everybody. The CW, Warner Brothers movie division, probably DC Comics too, because I think they own that. I don't know if Warner Brothers does anything outside of CW as far as TV. There we go. We've made it to level 50. Hey, I got a quick victory and no damage, so that gave me a decent amount of reward there. Even if we assume that Mortal Kombat 12 is in development, it's going to be a while, and we have to remember that Warner Brothers, Mortal Kombat 11 and 10 weren't particularly well received, and they were full of a lot of microtransactions. So, like, the Mortal Kombat series has been kind of off the rails. For a game series that really just needed to be a fighting game series and not try to tell any stories, Mortal Kombat 11 tried to tell a ridiculous time manipulation story with a different ending for each character when you beat the story mode that changed history drastically. I believe it was one of the African American characters, maybe Jax, that if you won the story mode in Mortal Kombat 12, he went back and stopped racism from happening, stopped slavery from ever happening. Which is just like, okay, that's a bold thing to throw in as your wrap up 2 sentences for a game. Moving on, FIFA and eFootball Challenger UFL reveals its first gameplay footage, which, there might be a lot of desire for gamers to. There might be a lot of desire amongst gamers who play FIFA to leave FIFA and instead play a different soccer game. If it looks good enough, if it plays good enough, maybe it won't have the character stats and the names of the players, but maybe people don't care so much about that. This definitely looks pretty good looking for a first attempt. How does it really play? Seems like it's probably plays from that top-down perspective, and these are all just cutscenes that they're showing right now. And that's not really how it's going to play, because the camera cannot be that wild. It almost certainly plays from this angle. Like the camera cannot zoom down to the ball in between people's knees, and it probably wouldn't be a good soccer game if you're having to press X for the left leg and B for the right leg over and over again. But yeah, as someone who's completely outside of the fandom of FIFA games, it would be interesting to see if there is real desire to play the UFL game instead. It says it's going to come out when it's ready in 2022. Well, can't do anything else. Here's that same article. After 50 years, Sega arcades are officially set to disappear from Japan. The game centers are set to rebrand following the sale of shares. The company has confirmed. Basically, They sold the remaining 14.9% of their division to a rental business called Ginda Incorporated, which will, I assume, just rent out the buildings for, I assume, shopping reasons. There might be significant remodeling costs around turning the arcades into anything else. There would be very large square footage areas that would only be suited for, in Japan, who knows, like I'd think that maybe a furniture store or something, but in Japan I bet there aren't a lot of furniture stores selling big pieces of furniture. Like, you might turn it into like a laser tag like facility, or you might just keep it as an arcade. That is also a possibility. That was definitely a problem in the West as arcades disappeared from the malls, which malls never made financial sense to exist in the first place. They were kind of scams. But as the arcades disappeared, it became very difficult to reuse that square footage, and a lot of arcades have to turn it into 2 or 3 shops and break up the floor plan. Movie theaters are also a great example that are even worse, as movie theaters are likely to start dying around the world, and particularly in the United States. It'll be very difficult to take those giant rooms and do something with them. There definitely is a high likelihood of a lot of buildings just being abandoned and unused. Anyways, back to video games. Netflix has signed a partnership to add more games. Rocket Ride Games will help secure new titles to be available to Netflix subscribers. I haven't seen any of these games, so I don't know if this is something that is just like specifically only on mobile Netflix apps, or like this is an Android interface here. I've never looked at the Android app in a long time, so there's like games coming soon, quick laughs. Interesting. Well, that's not gonna save me. It's a lot of tit for tat, but at least I'm winning sometimes here. None of these games, by the way, look interesting either. Let's see. The Uncharted movie gets its final pre-release trailer as the Legacy of Thieves collection of games arrives. This is that same article. Ubisoft execs defends NFTs, saying players, quote, don't get it. The Epic Games Store apparently gave away 765 million free games last year, helping it reach a whopping 194 million users. So for every person who bothered to go to the Epic Games Store and get a free game, they had to give away, let's see, nearly 4 free games per user on average. That'd be about where I'd break it down in the math. User spend also grew by 20% to 870 million. Which, when you run those numbers together, unless I'm misunderstanding something here, for every, I mean, this isn't dollars to dollars, but for nearly every single amount that they got gross, for every single dollar they got, they had to give away almost one game. And almost one game on average is going to be $40 or $50. So in terms of the valuation of product, they are just hemorrhaging money. Of course, they really didn't pay that much because of the way the Epic free game exclusivity deals go, but when you look at those numbers as a game publisher and game developer, you've got to really not be happy about that. And as a gamer, it still doesn't feel like I am not one step closer to ever really wanting to do any business on the Epic Game Store. I'm taking their free games, and that's it. And it certainly hasn't built any like special love in my heart for the Epic Unreal Engine. If anything, the number one thing over the past 12 months that has made me like the Unreal Engine more is the fact that Unity, its major competitor, has done some slightly more shady things that in changing their pricing schedule and just kind of being a little bit too greedy for their own good. So theoretically, at least for my own experience, had the Epic Game Store not given away any games at all in the past 12 months, I would have felt just as satisfied or happy with the Unreal Engine, and they would have saved themselves a lot of money. Why did this not activate? Oh, whatever. We're gonna risk it here and attack now. The UK retailer Curry's, which is not a retailer name I've ever heard of before, says that Pokemon Legends was its most pre-ordered game ever. Yeah, does definitely feel like a lot of people are happy about this game and are hyped about this game. Apparently, Brilliant Diamonds, the re-release of that, went back kind of to the old style of random encounters, and was kind of a disappointment, at least to some of the people at Giant Bomb, in their category of most disappointing games. Whereas Arceus is the new style of you see the Pokemon wandering around. And then allegedly, I will add that to the title here, Gotham Knights is on course for release this year after an earlier delay, Warner says. Hogwarts Legacy is too, after both games missed their 2021 release window. Yeah. Again, Warner Brothers games very much potentially going to get canceled the second Warner Brothers gets acquired by somebody or sold by somebody else. Ooh, gold chest. I didn't know we could get gold chests. Gold chest literally just gives you 2 of those legacy packs though. I was hoping for more there. Do you get a gold chest every time you level up? And only when you level up? I wonder if that's the way it works. And that's all of the Video Games Chronicle articles. So let's look at some of the games that have come out. It being Friday, even though I'm streaming a little early in the morning today, I've already seen that this weekend is going to be full of anime visual novel games that may have some lewd content in it. Even this game may have some lewd content in it, although I wouldn't be certain to believe that. This game is free to play. Is it a student project? I think this game puts me in a weird position because I was going to put it on the follow list. I wasn't signed in on anything, so I'll have to reload to put things on the follow list anyways, but this doesn't look like it's a student project. It doesn't look like it's a game that would really justify playing. There is an artistic inconsistency with this robot character and then Amelia. Like, clearly not human versus humanoid female in skin suit, bodysuit. So I have to say no to this. Here we have a Lost in Red Valley, which might be a Chinese action MMO RPG or might be something. Early access, English only. Interesting. Single player only. I would have put my bet that this would have been an Asian game. Well, I'll put that on the follow list, which means I have to reload it. Actually, it's already on the follow list. These aren't follow list games that I'm looking at. It says you explore, craft, survival alone or with friends. So this may be an odd survival game, which we really haven't seen that concept of a survival game set in more of a Asian style world. There might be something to that idea. Just because so many survival games are, you're in a forest, it's usually assumed to be a western forest, or you're on the ocean and all the ships and boats and things you would run into are western ships and boats. Can't do anything, I don't think. I think we could attack this. Might as well. Here we have a game called Lost in Blindness, which seems like a game where you're going to be blind, but it's not one of those games where they're not going to bother to animate anything at all. Which I think you kind of need that. English and French $24.99. I think this deserves a follow. There have been some games that have simulated blindness before. Maybe this is just a follow list cleanup. Lost in Abyss would explain why all of these are starting with the letter L. Well, I guess if I know what I'm doing, it'll make a little bit more sense. This one obviously needs some more time. I don't know where the follow list cleanup though would be here. Oh! I think because of what's on Steam listings maybe are just non-existent. Maybe no new games have come out at all. Interesting. We'll see. If this is just a follow list cleanup, then we'll go through 5 games and that's it. Let's see, Lost Epic here. is tagged as a Souls-like. It's still early access. It's teetering at 70%. So I think we either have to say yes or no to this once it comes out of early access, but for now we can just leave it. Then we have Lost Dream. Like, I desperately would want to play a game where you play as an animal, but it kind of needs to be something more than just playing as an animal. I'm getting a little bit better about not paying attention and surrendering. Although I've been still pretty bad about getting distracted and surrendering. I wish it wasn't surrendering. Like, and then instead just in the turn. Alright, let's do this. Special summon this here. Face up. Activate this effect. And we'll just go ahead and activate this effect and destroy everything except for this card. I think I have to say no to this game because it just doesn't look like there's enough game here. So I'm going to take that off the follow list. Lost Circus VR. Still early access. And it's a VR game. Looks creepy, certainly. Yeah, I'll leave Lost Circus on the follow list. Lost at Sea. Needs more time. Unless I just want to remove it now. We'll just give it more time. Gloria. I should consider this game since it's been out for a year. Yeah, I don't even know why I would have put this on the follow list. This does just look like a platforming game. It doesn't look particularly that good as far as a platforming game. There definitely were some days where my network may have just gone down. Yeah, it did. There definitely have been some days when I've looked at games that have come out on Steam and just not had the mental energy to make the hard decisions or any decisions at all. Alright, well, while that is reloading, we can go through the news at least. PlayStation Plus free games have been announced. UFC 4, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dungeon Keep, which is not the new Tiny Tina game, and Planet Coaster Original Time console edition. We had already talked about this. We also had already talked about the Steam Deck launching February 25th. Atelier Online, Alchemist of Brazil, to end its service on March 31st in Japan. This is a Gamatsu article, which is probably a good thing. Like, the Atelier series will do better to focus in on making fewer games and making sure they stay consistently good. The Triangle Strategy Character and Story Trailer number 3, Benedict Pascal, is available. This is a Switch game. I haven't heard of a game called Triangle Strategy, but apparently it's a turn-based RPG, JRPG. Kojin's Sword of Rewind has a overview trailer, which looks like it is just kind of all over the place as far as characters and animation style and what you're actually doing. I think you're mostly hyper dashing and platforming in this game. But frankly, I'd have to watch the trailer, so I'm going to leave that while we're still waiting for the network to reset. If anything, it feels like while the network going down is happening slightly less often, seems like it's going down for longer amounts of time, which that's not making anything better. Taiko no Tatsujin, the Drum Master, has a launch trailer, according to Gametsu here. I don't know if you really need to watch the trailer for the fairly well-known Japanese drumming game. It's coming to the PC, Xbox, and Xbox One and Xbox Series, which means there's a question specifically how you actually do the drumming, whether you're just pulling left trigger or right trigger, or whether they encourage you to plug in something. One of the things I have said in the past that I'd really like to see if they were going to bring back rhythm games and music games is we probably do have at this point the technology to either make a fairly cheap device that could identify notes fairly accurately. I mean, they already have digital music tuners where you can tune a guitar or other things. So basically that same technology, just plug it into USB or program that same technology into the microphone that you would plug into any console or PC, and then just have people play actual guitar and actual musical instruments. And theoretically, instead of making a game that's Guitar Hero, you might just have a game called Music Hero and you can play any instrument you want. So instead of having like Drum Hero and Guitar Hero be separate games, just have one called Music Hero, and then you at the beginning of the game say, I'm playing drums, I'm playing guitar, and just let people switch in the middle of a play session. And frankly, those games never really had to be that accurate in the first place, so good, how accurate is probably going to be good enough. So much for the hopes of that reconnecting. What's funny is he just now reconnected, which that's one of the things that gives me the feeling that maybe it is at some level Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Master that's causing these troubles, but I know it isn't because these troubles are happening to other people outside of my house and my local area network, which that would be insane if somehow I'm taking down people in my entire area. Plus, I've seen these troubles happen when I'm not even playing the game, so it can't just be Yu-Gi-Oh! The open world action game, the Seven Deadly Sins Origin, has been announced for console, PC, and smartphone. Deadly Impact. There's a lot of the Seven Deadly Sins Netflix anime is what I would describe it as, that I have not seen. A lot of like spin-off movies and episodes. I've seen like the first series, and I would say it's probably a little too simplistic and a little too softcore in comparison to other anime shows. So I don't really have a huge level of enthusiasm that would make me want to potentially play a 7 Deadly Sins game. And if you make it an open world action game, it's probably not going to be too far away from the mobile phone game, which I think I tried to play that for a brief time and it looked pretty pathetic. Boring. The character designs as far as the 7 Deadly Sins are also all over the place and ridiculous. You have the main female to all go at here with one high legging and one completely missing legging, and she's supposed to be a princess, but she's working for this guy as a waitress. And then you have this pig and his mother. They carries this guy's restaurant. And then you have this giant lady who can grow real big, and then you've got this guy who's lazy and floats on a pillow. And like this guy, I believe can't be killed. This girl, I think, is Merlin. I think he's Arthur. I don't even know this character. I don't think he was in the first season. This character I don't think was in the first season either. And I wouldn't even bother to generally tell you the story of the 7 Deadly Sins other than there were 7 knights who were super powerful, and then they were accused of betraying the kingdom and made outlaws, and now everybody's looking for them, except for the fact that they actually don't look anything like the way they are being described in the wanted pictures. And so they end up going from place to place and doing good, despite everybody thinking they're bad guys. And I think there is slightly more that happens, but not a lot more. I think there's some kind of conspiracy as such. Let's see, if we look at this blurred out video, yeah, this does not feel too different from what the mobile phone game was, even though the mobile phone was turn-based. There might be a good game around this concept, though, where you just run around and fight a bunch of things all of Breath of the Wild, and it'll just be a case where you just aren't going to have to you can just turn a blind eye to the fact that there's that it's these characters. Although I think you'd have kind of a hard time turning a blind eye to that fact. I sacrificed the wrong character there. I did not mean to do that. Well, I guess we can bring him back. Link is not a particularly imposing character in Breath of the Wild. So if you wanted to imagine that you were playing as some other character, you could do that. But when you look at the giant lady and when you look at the main character, I mean, it's got a whole stamina climbing on the walls. It's totally being influenced by Breath of the Wild, clearly. Which almost doesn't make sense that he would have a stamina bar, because he's supposed to be super powerful, the leader of the 7 Deadly Sins, even though he looks like a kid. And the fact that this game is coming to smartphones definitely probably means it's focusing on something like a Genshin Impact clone, and they're not really looking to probably push the graphics that hard or do anything that big. Genshin Impact, for better or worse, has finally pushed smartphone games to the level of actually trying to be something instead of just being pathetic excuses for a game. Alright. Let's go ahead and activate this and draw a card. Then activate this and protect the monster. Destroy that card. Gamatsu has an article here. Atelier Sophia 2, The Alchemist of the Mysterious Dream, has a story trailer. Which, yeah. Exactly what I'm talking about, where they're just bringing out too many Atelier games too fast. Considering how they managed to hit a level of success with Atelier Sophia, I believe was the game, or at least the first one of those. The fact that there's been a sequel to Atelier Sophia and 2 other Atelier games says that they're putting them out too fast. And I guess these are just fall list games. So it's I could have sworn I saw games had come out on what's on Steam, but they're totally missing here. This Loot Light game, I suppose, needs more time. And then Loop Index needs more time, unless I'm gonna remove it now. I can't do anything. Well, that definitely puts us in a weird position, but I guess we'll just kind of wrap up the news. And that's fine, because if we wrap up the news and... I mean, I could probably just run my macro a second time and see if there's anything else to catch up with. Here's that Kojin trailer, now that we have the network connected. Honestly, I probably should just wrap things up, though, because if we're having network trouble, there's no guarantee. Yeah, Kojin is a hack and slash platformer with a lot of hyper dashing happening around it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels has topped 4 million. iOS and Android versions are now available in 11 countries. The milestone has been achieved a week after release. So, yeah. So, it's not... I'm not completely wrong here. Playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. It may just be that it feels like there's less people playing it than there actually are, because of the limited ways in which you can actually interact with people, since it's since it is just playing ranked and nothing else. take that card, destroy this card, so then this guy can destroy this face-up card. So I can then attack here. So then I haven't checked if this is on cell phones in the United States. That would be nice, but it seems like the Android version is not in the United States yet. It's in Japan. It should be on cell phone everywhere. More countries to follow. That being said, 5 gigabytes for an app on a cell phone is definitely asking a lot. Hopefully the images and the resolutions of the textures is smaller on the cell phone versions of the game. But yeah, I would like it to go to cell phone. Certainly, that would help me a little bit, but probably not that much. It's rare that there would be a scenario where I actually would want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! On my cell phone instead of just on my PC. Because I can't play 2 games at the same time unless it's automated, like Destiny Child, the lewd cell phone game I do play, which is the only game I play because I can automate that. It has automation built into it for you to automate it. Even at that, it has so much going on that it's kind of getting ridiculous. Like, I usually have it doing 2 hours of daily grinding every single day. And yeah, most of what my cell phone is doing is just playing that game. And they've moved on to another expansion. I doubt too many people even care about Destiny Child, but I will say that they have decided that they're going to reduce the number of maintenances they do while claiming to still release the same amount of content. Instead of having a maintenance update every couple of weeks, I think they're turning it to every 4 weeks, which is fine, really. Like that, but there is definitely a lingering fear that eventually they will just stop adding new content to Destiny Child as they move over to their next games. But hopefully they just can wrap up the story in a decent way. There is weirdness in the story of Destiny Child also, in that the main character has completely shifted his appearance and changed the people he's interacting with, and it's on the verge of being no longer just an interesting side story into just a complete abandonment of all the narrative that has happened up until that point. Or it's going to be an act 2 of a 2-act play, and that when they do wrap up the Mitra side narrative, which is the name of the main character that he's going by now, if they do wrap up that whole story in the next couple of expansions or months, maybe even it'll take the next year or 2, they may just wrap up all the story around that. Anyways, the Famitsu sales have been updated. We can once again see that the top 10 list is Switch games, but the PlayStation Tom Clancy Rainbow Six Extraction has taken the 11th spot for PlayStation 4 specifically. I'm about to lose here. Which I would have not thought that Rainbow Six Extraction, which from what I hear is not really much of a Rainbow Six game, would have caught the Japanese audience's attention. But apparently it did, taking the 11th position for PS4, 18th position for PlayStation 5. And those are the only new games. That might also be why it sold so well, as it was literally the only new game. I don't know how many game shops even do advertise games that's coming out this week anymore. They probably still have a shelf or something like that, but I don't know how many gamers would specifically buy a game just because it's brand new this week versus wanting to buy games they actually know something more about. I mean, I would hope most gamers aren't that incredibly flippant that they would just buy whatever's new every week. I'm sure there are some rich people out there that would do that, but then why not just have everything pre-ordered and shipped to you at that point? Moving on, Horizon Forbidden West goes gold. PlayStation 4 Pro gameplay is available. This is still Gematsu articles. Gran Turismo 7 Find Your Line, Lose Yourself trailer is available to check out. Submerged Hidden Depths is coming to the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This is the sequel to a game I kind of liked, but it didn't have a lot of actual gameplay in it, which kind of sucked. And Submerged Hidden Depths was a Stadia game, so I don't suspect that there's actually that much still there. Will you get to play as the brother or use the brother in any way? That's a question, certainly. Will the story of the flooded, destroyed world that they live in get expanded on? Because there was like no dialogue at all in the game. Very little explanation on how the world became submerged, and really all you were doing was focusing in on this girl trying to find medicine for your brother who was sick and dying, and then her being infected more and more by these kind of like plants. You can see how the dolphins here are kind of infected by the plants, and these giant vines are growing around her. Seems like she may have gotten some kind of magical powers, plant powers, at some point. The narrative is questionable as to how two kids would live in such a world for even a couple days, but in fairness, the story was that the boy was on the verge of dying. So yeah, for my own interest, it was a pretty game, I will say that. For my own interest, I would like to play the game and see if maybe they could do something more with it. At a certain level, it definitely felt like it was trying to do a it was trying to do a Legend of Zelda Wind Waker experience where you were using your boat to go from dungeon to dungeon, but there weren't dungeons in the first game. You were just climbing on the outside of buildings, and I wouldn't be surprised if you still just mostly climb on the outside of buildings. And I would say, since Submerged was a fairly short game, they needed to have put out a sequel a lot quicker, and it needed to have been released in a lot more of an accessible way than on Stadia. Almost certainly this game, Hidden Depths, was only made because Google funded some of its development. So yeah, I'm definitely not holding my breath for major quality. Right, we need to be able to destroy everything on the field if we're going to even have a slight chance at success. Moving on, 2 Point Campus launches May 17th, which I guess might be slightly more interesting than 2 Point Hospital, but I don't know if either one of those styles of games are anything that really interests me. Just the game Relayer has a characters trailer, which, boy, is that a baggy outfit or jumpsuit. Yeah, it looks like it's a positional placement RPG game through the blurriness. And the actual gameplay looks pretty boring if you ignore the anime characters on the side and what is probably a mech fighting cutscene. That doesn't look particularly interesting. The game Rumbleverse has been delayed to an unannounced date. This was the Fortnite clone with kind of like wrestling, silly wrestling visuals. It was going to be a free-to-play brawler battle royale. Unannounced date makes me think it's canceled, but who knows. Microids is going to produce 2 new Agatha Christie games, one to be developed by the Microids studio Lion, which okay. So, they previously made the ABC Myrtles and the first cases of Hercule Poirot. So, one would assume that they're going with more Poirot stories and not diving into the Miss Marple series, which is, I think, the other thing Agatha Christie is mostly known for. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I definitely assume that they're just going to make more Poirot games and try to make a kind of long-running series that's a competitor to the Sherlock Holmes games, which it's not particularly that hard to make a competitor to the Sherlock Holmes games, since that long-running series has not particularly been great. We already talked about the Xbox Live free games, so we don't need to talk about them again. We already talked about Hyperscape ending service, so we don't need to talk about it again. We had already talked about Death Stranding's Director's Cut launching March 30th. Maybe we didn't have a date then. AI The Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative launches June 23rd in Japan and June 24th in the West. Yacht Club Games Presents is set for February 1st, teases a Megaton announcement, which, interestingly here, it's going to be huge announcements, and it will be broadcast on G4's X-Play on their Twitch channel. So this is not particularly interesting from Yacht Club Games, because I don't even know if Yacht Club Games has made any other game or anything. These are 2 new games in development unrelated to Shovel Knight, so I'd have to assume that they're the Shovel Knight developer from that comparison. Yeah, I'll just end here because I'm going to lose. And this will probably be the last game we play. There's no reason to push it. But yeah, this is definitely a feather in the cap for the G4 reboot. Which, yeah, G4, X-Play, Attack of the Show, not particularly winning the hearts and minds of people lately. But if they could start getting announcements and exclusives and be the place that is always around for video game announcements, and they can get that level of insider access that other people can't get, then that might make them a source worth reporting from or referencing, even if it would be begrudgingly a begrudgingly accepted source of information. So when we started playing today, we started at level 42. We are now at level 53, almost 54. Just by playing a lot and not getting totally wrecked. So yeah, it's not going to be hard, certainly, to get to the 100. But what kind of sucks here is you really aren't getting anywhere as many gems as I feel like you should. And sure, crafting points, which still desperately need to be renamed, they are, I guess, theoretically maybe more valuable than 100 gems. But I want to open packs as a collectible card game. It was very nice to be able to open at least one pack every single live stream. And while I could still probably do that, the way the whole system is set up, you're only really rewarded if you buy packs in sets of 10, which means every 10 days I would be able to open packs. And I have cleared out all the daily quests. I have 3 days left to log in and try and get up to this point. As for unlimited missions, it seems like this wants me to gain 2,000 life points a certain number of times, and it's not telling me how many times. And then summoning monsters from the graveyard will be something you just eventually do a lot of. Activating traps. Some of these are insane though. Like activate 3,000 traps, that's going to take forever. Here we have an American football image. And you're going to have to make like specific decks to ensure you get to do that. Like, apparently we've won 52 ranked duels, and that's gotten us in a decent position. Replay. Edit. So we have another icon, so we can change it to upstart cart. Gargoyle. Don't have any new tiles. I have a named football mate, which I wouldn't go with that. We have new monster art. And yeah, once I do the solo stuff, I will be able to unlock a little bit more of this. Still really haven't found any reason why you would want to friend anybody either. It seems like it's at the moment pretty unnecessary and pretty silly. I don't know if I'd really suggest Yu-Gi-Oh for kids either. I have to be honest, Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel feels like it's not as kid friendly as Duel Links is, and both of those games seem like they are both of these games feel like they're very focused on, at some point, converting free-to-play players into payers more than anything else. Although I think Duel Links was probably much more in your face with advertisements, and this game may very well be a counter argument to how much Duel Links had advertising and in-app purchases in it. It may be a case that even greedy Konami, which I assume they're greedy, is going to realize that there's just going to be too much legislation and pushback for making kids-focused games full of microtransactions that it's not worth it to go overboard. Eventually we may actually get to a point where if you want your game to be not rated or limited to adults, you're going to have to remove all microtransactions. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here. The Elder Scrolls Online High Isle expansion launches June 6th on PC and Stadia, June 21st on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, and Xbox One. Yeah, I think I finally have gotten over my cough too. I haven't coughed at all today, and yesterday was the first day I felt like I wasn't completely congested with just a whole bunch of mucus buildup in my lungs. It took too long, and certainly every year I get older, it seems like it takes a little bit longer to heal from simple sicknesses. Moving on, Gematsu says needy streamer overload sales have topped 100,000, which frankly 100,000 feels so small that really isn't a number worth announcing. I feel, even if the game is maybe a niche game. A game called Power Slave Exhumed launches February 10th for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is a KEX engine port of a classic console game that I don't recognize, but I assume it's basically a Doom clone, maybe a second generation Doom clone. There's a lot of visuals on the interface down here. Then the game Winning Post 9 has its 2022 debut trailer, which this is one of those horse racing games that won't ever come out of Japan, so no point in looking at that. GameDeveloper.com's article says players spent $84 million on Epic Games Store in 2021. That is definitely spinning the title to make that sound like a good thing. I'm sure Valve never tells how much is spent on games for Steam to compare that to, but it really still does not sound like a lot when you're giving away so many free games to try to accomplish that. A 20% increase from the previous year is probably good, but not as good as they probably need. Now's the time to vote for the GDCA and IGF Audience Awards, says GameDeveloper.com, their own conferences and such. Check that out if you're interested. Apparently, a parent's letter drove Hello Games to remaster Joe Danger. Joe Danger would have likely slipped away to obscurity if a well-meaning parent hadn't shot Hello Games an email. Well, seriously, how flippant is Hello Games that a single email makes business decisions for you? That's not good. If me as a YouTube content creator got one comment telling me to play a different game, me as a YouTube content creator who has less than 1,000 subscribers got a comment from one person to play a different game, I more than likely wouldn't do it, because I wouldn't change my plans or play a game that I didn't want to play in the first place just because one person did it. Frankly, if 1,000 people told me to play a different game, I would consider it, certainly. Yeah, I'd consider even one person, but I probably wouldn't do it at this point. I have plans that are set in stone. I have videos that have recorded and just or need to be scheduled or are scheduled. People who are trying to run a business, whether successful or not, usually have things in motion, and a single note shouldn't change your opinion. This really feels like a made-up feel-good story. Even if it isn't made up, it doesn't come off to me, thinking from a business perspective, like a good thing. It feels like it's coming off very much like an SJW, like virtue signaling, we love our fans type thing. Fan love signaling. Maybe not even use the phrase SJW or virtue signaling. It just feels like it is pandering to a very high level. Meanwhile, I don't know if Joe Danger is really a good game. I don't know when this Joe Danger game even came out, so I don't think it helped their business. Moving on. We already talked about Ubisoft scrapping or shutting down Hyperscape, so we don't need to talk about that. The Communication Workers of America has suggested that the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, I might as well just spell out all of these things. This is where hyperlinks or alternative links should be used a lot more in HTML, as one of maybe 2 or 3 features that HTML supports and then is never actually done. It would make a lot of sense to expand initialisms like this. But yeah, they have suggested the Security Exchange Commission investigating, quote, misleading Activision Blizzard's filing. They're saying examine alleged discrepancies in its disclosures for the Microsoft acquisition. Which, yeah, this suggestion happened right after the Blizzard department, Raven, said, no, we're not going to automatically accept your unionization effort, which, yeah, they're going to play hardball and go backwards and forwards. There very likely are some insignificant discrepancies in what is being disclosed to Microsoft or around the Microsoft acquisition. I totally believe that, but I don't think the SEC is going to really stop the acquisition or even do anything at all, because this kind of paints the hands or dirties the hands of the SEC, in which they're going to look like they are now either siding with a union and being too pro-union, and that'll get people mad at them, or they're going to side against the union and be too anti-union, and that'll get people mad at them. Let's see. I don't know if this is specifically video game related, but it seemingly wants to be a video game thing. The White House is working on new cryptocurrency regulation. The famously unregulated currency is allegedly about to be very regulated. I have heard some major drops in cryptocurrency values, but the fear of regulation has been dropping cryptocurrency around the world for about a year or two now. And then an atmospheric puzzler, Mork Reed, inducted into the Norway's new National Museum, which, interesting, seems like they built a national museum and then immediately put a video game I've never heard of, but I would assume is a game made in Norway. So it might make a lot of sense for it to be inducted. Okay. So what we should do is I should run my macro again and see if we get any what's on Steam games this time, and if there's any new news that really needs to be talked about. You know what may have happened here? Come to think of it, is I may have temporarily stopped what's on Steam from doing its thing on my macro, and then that would have explained why none of those are open. Of course, it's been 3 hours, so if that is the case, because yeah, I'm definitely seeing that there were some games, and I definitely am seeing that some of these games are more of the lewd variety and the visual novel variety. So I saw those. So why did none of those open? That is the question. Alright. Let me run my macro again. So open up this. Let's see. Yes, I did comment it out. That's what went wrong. And I commented it out for a stupid reason, because the network was messed up. So let's see. Is there any problem in showing the macro run? I guess not. So, see the glory of the macro as it runs very fast, going through the news and what's on Steam. Now, I say very fast, but it's not really a macro, it's a program, but it's a program that's manipulating Chrome and having an interface with it on a very high level in the same way that a human would interface with it, compared to using an API or just low-level programming. If I could have written this and wasted a lot of time to program it at a very low level, this would run considerably faster, because we wouldn't have images loading, we wouldn't have to scroll down on pages, we wouldn't have to simulate mouse clicks. There's just a whole lot of extra garbage happening here, when honestly, if I was like low-level programming this in something like Python, I could make simple functions to do a simple HTTP GET and then decode the HTML pages to get the links to open up more tabs. Although at a certain point, if you're going to open up more tabs, then you've got to go back to the high level. So there would have to be some other way of then launching those tabs, which Python, I imagine, could do that. One of the things to point out is when you go to what's on Steam's website here, is that you might notice in the top left of some of the games, it'll say it launched 365 days ago, like really big numbers, and yet it's the next game on the list. The reason for that is quite simply because the game launched in like early access, and now it's getting relaunched, as all best as I can figure what is going on there. So that's the macro, or the program. I keep calling it a macro, it's not a macro. It does have some quirks in that it leaves the last article that you looked at open. And that just opened all the new news. So here we have a Video Games Chronicle article that Certain Affinity may be working on a new Halo Infinite mode, as well as an Xbox Monster Hunter clone. And then this was the Gematsu article we saw last. And the news stories is that they have Hyperdimension Neptunia sister versus sister battle gameplay, if you're interested in that. Little Witch Nobita, third in development content video. Is Little Witch Nobita the Dark Souls game? This might be a different one, or this might be the anime girl in a Dark Souls style game. Every time they put out new content for Little Witch Nobita, I think this is that game. It looks so much different than what it looked like before. And yet it still doesn't really feel like it makes a lot of sense that you have this short anime girl fighting all these big monster characters. But yeah, if that product ever actually gets finished, it'll be an interesting visual. The HoloLive virtual YouTuber Minato Aqua game has been announced for consoles. I don't even know this VTuber. VTubers pretty much dead in the West. And then we have a decent number of games here, so we're gonna try to go with just a generic yes, no. This looks like a VR Jenga game, so I'm gonna give that a follow. It's 719, English and several other languages. Here we have what looks like a Chinese puzzle game, mostly. It's tagged as a visual novel, but I wouldn't even really believe that. It's free, but it's Chinese only. Also, since it's Chinese only, I assume there's not really any adult content in it. Blaster Alert looks like garbage, so that's going to be a no. This is another Chinese only game that doesn't look good either, so that's going to be a no. Seal of Evil looks like a Diablo clone. $7.99 English, allegedly full audio. Well, in a weird way, I want to give this a follow just because ripping off Diablo is probably a smart idea. But in reality, going back and playing something like Diablo 1 is probably never something I'd want to do. Here we have a game called Wanderer, which seems like a maybe VR time travel game covering a bunch of different experiences. $39.99 English, allegedly full on you. It's not a terrible thought per se to jump around to a lot of different scenes in VR. It also gives you a good excuse to not have to teleport people or have a walking system. Of course, this could also be a collection of very low effort scenes, but it is mostly positive even now. So I'll put that on the follow list. Next we have a game called Villa's Blinds, which doesn't look like anything other than an asset flip. $8.99 English and Turkish, German and Russian. That's an odd combination of languages. We have a game called Deflector, which looks like a top-down neon hack and slash game. There might be something to it, so I'll give it a follow. How much was it? $13.49, several languages. Strings of Divinity looks to MS Paint for my taste. $4.99 English only. That's gonna be a no. Rabbit Hole looks like a horror zombie shooter. That probably means it's not very good. It might very well be mostly an asset flip game, but I'll be generous since I'm trying to go fast here and put it on the fall story. Whole bunch of languages, full English and Russian, it claims. Cat and fish. Looks like nothing. It's 639 English and Russian. Yep. Zenith in the Last City is an VR MMORPG, but it's not my type of game. English only. We may have to address a point if we start to see. It would be kind of hard to even see twice as many Russian language games on Steam, because we've just consistently always seen a lot of Russian language games. And if there is actually any truth to the theory, this Fantasy Mosaics game is nothing of interest, by the way. If there is anything to the theory that there's a lot of money laundering going on through these Russian language games and these Russian games, and we started to see a whole bunch more, then due to like increased tensions between Russia and a lot of people, NATO people in particular, we might need to make a comment there. But it'd be hard to see, really, honestly, because nearly a third of every game that comes out on Steam is Russian, and I would say almost half of all the bad low effort games that come out on Steam are Russian, with the other half being Chinese. This game Exploria does not look interesting either. But we also have a decent number of garbage games that I probably overlook in my mind that are English only. Like this Nice Try, looks terrible. $9.99, English only. It's harder to say an English only game is made in the United States or in North America, because English is just kind of the default that you would sell a video game at anywhere in the Western world. Movie Night here also looks uninteresting. It's free to play. English, allegedly full audio. Move, Dodge, and Kill is a top-down bullet hell game. $7.19 English and French. That's still going to be a no. Here we have Redemption Cemetery Dead Park Collector's Edition, which looks to be another hidden object game. Yep. From Big Fish Games, selling for $8.99 instead of the $12.99 they usually charge for these types of games. Maybe they actually know the value of these games better than I think, and they have sales from their own website that allows them to justify charging more or less. Here we have Kamiyaba Destiny on a dicey deadline as a visual novel. We can see anime girls in school outfits, although this is a Shrine Maiden outfit. This is definitely a school outfit. These are definitely school outfits. There's a screenshot specifically looking at cleavage. $19.99 Japanese full audio. 20 plus hours of visual novel stories. Let's see. Contains mild sexual content and partial nudity. So again, we see the adult games pushed to the weekends. I'll put this on the follow list and see if people like it. I don't recognize this publisher, the developer, but I probably wouldn't. Yeah, we have a game called Sling Star that looks like nothing. Free to play, English only. Here we have 120 yen story, which is about $1.20 in US dollars. Which that almost implies that this would be a very cheap, low effort visual novel. Anime girl in the sailor school outfit. Not a lot of text here. $14.99, Japanese and Chinese. I would almost lean towards this being a Chinese focused product. And again, no disclosure of any mature content, so I'd assume it's just not there. Here we have another Chinese, what looks like mobile game port. Would be my guess. Maybe it's a Korean mobile game port. $21.99, English and Chinese. Here we have a game called City Retreat, which looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter of no interest. $2.39, English only. Here we have a game called Blank Frame, which visually looks very bad, so I'm gonna have to say no to that. $4.49, English only. Here we have one that's a Chinese mobile phone port, obviously. Free-to-play MMO, Chinese only. Here we have RC Rush, which looks like a racing game. I don't want to immediately dismiss this because I'm moving so fast, so I'll give this one a follow. $15.29. Apparently also supports VR, so it might have some extra value in that. This is also on the follow list already. I don't know how it's on the follow list already. Here we have Kamimaho, which is another RPG dating sim. And here you have a fairly young looking character compared to this character, or at least short looking character. It may have been a flashback sequence. Let's see, early access, English not supported, Japanese, Chinese, full audio, and the entire description is Chinese. And it says mild sexual innuendo and mild bad language, but it doesn't support English, so obviously it can't make it to the fall list. What's funny is we basically have not seen any visual novels at all in the past week, or at least it feels like that. Here, this is one of these RPG games where some version of this game has a patch where there's a lot more cleavage showing, but it's not really a good game, and it's just selling on sex or implied sex. That's why it says all characters in the game are 18 or older is the first thing it says. $15.99, English, Japanese, and Chinese. But then the actual content as described is nothing. Strong language, sexual language. Yeah, it definitely feels like visual novels in general have just been not allowed this week, which that would be an odd step in what I think would be the wrong direction if all of a sudden all visual novels are getting not released this week. That being said, it is also, if this is the Lunar New Year, then that would be the big holiday week in which nobody works in Asia. Anyways, this game looks like garbage. $17.99. English, allegedly full audio. Next we have a game called Cellar, which doesn't look good. $5.99. English, allegedly full audio. We have about 20 more tabs. We can burn through them fairly quickly. Rogue Dungeon is a dungeon crawler of no interest. Early access, $8.99 English. Here we have Otome no Himitsu, which is just a jigsaw puzzle game with some anime images. We haven't seen a lot of those lately either, and thank goodness. I don't want to see them come back in large numbers either. $1.19, allegedly full English audio. Zima here looks like it's mostly an asset flip game. It's showing resistors and circuitry and stuff, but I have no idea what this central thing is supposed to represent. In a lot of ways it looks like they've made a game where you just fly around an environment, and they decided to make it look like circuitry for no reason. Take a look at electronics from the inside, which I don't know if I really would say that this is what electronics look like from the inside, because you wouldn't be painting resistors to have the resistor color code on them if they're inside embedded silicon, nor would they bend up on pins up and over. They would be much more surface mounted. So feels asset flippy and inaccurate, to say the least. That's English and Russian for 99 cents. Here we have a game called Accelerating Hotkeys, which doesn't look like anything of interest to me. Some kind of weird, maybe typing game. $7.99, several languages. Here we have Math Game, which it looks true to its name, but also looks like it's just a cell phone port of something. It's uninteresting. 59 cents English only. We haven't even seen a lot of 59 cents games lately. Here we have Destroy Simulator, which looks like an asset flip thing. Although destructible environments as a concept might be slightly interesting, there have been better games out there that have more going for them than just a generic open world where you can destroy some things. And this procedural destruction and the visuals around the procedural destruction for this game is nowhere as good as more AAA efforts at that. Next we have a game called Infinity Battle Soul, which looks like a top-down hack and slash, probably an MMO. No. It says it's single player with online co-op. Chinese only. How much is it selling for? $8.49. Hyper 5 looks like a side-scrolling bullet hell shoot 'em up. $9.99. English, allegedly full audio again. These screenshots are bad, which is a shame because there's a hint here that there might actually be a decent game. And I'd hate to have to start rejecting screenshots in the hope that the game is actually good. I mean, when you look at this video and see it in motion, it definitely does feel like there might be more here. Enough that I'm even gonna make an exception and put it on the follow list, but boy are they not helping themselves with any of those screenshots. Here we have Gas Herb, which just looks like a platforming puzzle game of no interest. Free to play, whole bunch of languages. We haven't seen a lot of games claiming that they support 27 languages either. If anything, I feel like I've just not done a lot of work this week because of the internet problems I've been having, and somehow there haven't really been that many games out. This could very well just be a asset flip horror game, but I almost want to give it a chance. English, Spain, Spanish, $5.99. See what the video looks like. Wandering around the forest, seeing purple things. No, I don't think there's really a game here enough to put it on the follow list, unfortunately. We have something called I've Seen Everything, which there was a TV cartoon with weird aliens that kind of looked like this. Not quite like this. This looks like this is some weird trivia educational game it claims to be. It doesn't look particularly interesting. Plus it's got a whole bunch of DLC. So I had to drink some water here. I'm getting, I guess, acid reflux from talking so much. So we have something here called Return to Run Away, which looks like it's some kind of horror side-scrolling adventure game. Enough that I'm willing to give it a follow. $6.39, several languages, allegedly full audio. The only thing I'd check here is to see if Return 1 is on Steam. It is. And we can see that this is mostly positive, so I'm gonna put this on the wish list. Like, this came out October 14th, 2022, so they're putting out a sequel a little too early. We have Let's Ride, Silver Buckle Stables, which I'll put this on the follow list, but almost certainly it will never get any reviews. And visually, I'm only putting it on the follow list because I would like to see one, like, girl-focused, horse riding focused. It's not even girl-focused. I'd like to see one successful horse riding game out there. It seemed like you were scrubbing off the spots on the horse's fur, and I don't think it quite works that way. Yeah, honestly, if they could make a horse riding game of any sort work, that'd be great. I do want to see girl friendly games, and they tend to be horse riding games when they're focused on girls. But yeah, if you made a horse riding game that was just a bunch of guys, I would still be like, alright, let's show off at least one good horse game, if such a thing exists. It's just some kind of, like, half RPG, half visual novel, maybe daughter raising simulator. Yeah, this is one of these daughter raising simulator games, so I'll put it on the follow list. In the vein of Princess Maker, but perhaps with better gameplay mechanics, or it'd make more sense. $17.99, English and Korean. Kind of in the same idea. There's never really been a sun raising simulator that I can think of, or a game where you could just choose the gender of your child, or you can't choose the gender of your child and it's randomized. That would also make sense. We have something called Mall of Mayhem, which just looks like an asset flip shooter. $17.99 English, allegedly full audio. Here we have a game called Avalanches, which doesn't look like anything. Even the Princess Maker series, although somewhat historically relevant, I don't think are particularly the greatest games, probably because they're a little too long. $4.99 for this game Avalanches, that's going to be a no. And then we have Billiards of the Round Table, which looks like a ridiculous billiards game. Like, there's a reason why you don't make circular tables. The balls always bounce back. Interesting that the edges are spinning, but even that these are gimmick tables that don't mean anything to anybody who actually is interested in playing snooker or billiards or 9-ball or whatever. Then we already talked about this story, and we already talked about this story, and then Game Developer has a story here. Hope I've been showing these games this whole time. Microsoft is going to alter the Xbox subscription practices after UK regulator investigates. The company will specifically be more transparent about auto-renewing contracts. So this is another case of the UK and Europe in general, if you consider the UK part of Europe still, being much more consumer friendly than, say, the rules in the United States. And then here we have some more follow lists that opened because I ran the macro. This one needs more time. Low story probably needs more time. Although I could probably get rid of it now because it actually doesn't look like a good game. And then Loving Evil as a game, visual novel. It has 30 reviews, it's very positive, so it meets all the criteria to be elevated to wish list. Not that I'd inherently play it. Lovely Planet Remix. I covered Lovely Planet and didn't like it, so there's no reason for me to buy this game or think about buying this game. Plus, it's fairly new, but not that new, so it's oddly under-reviewed. Love, Money, Rock and Roll is not even out yet, which, why is it on the fall list then? Yeah, I don't really see anything here that would justify making a special exception to have this on the fall list. I must have just bumped it or something. Love and War Warlord by Chance is an adult game, rated very positively. Well, let me come over here and see what the screenshots tell me. Tactical RPG, become a warlord. Watching the video of it. The actual game here, outside of the adult content, which they're not really showing, really isn't showing particularly interesting gameplay. Yeah. It's $2.24. It has a free 18 plus DLC unlock, so you're not even going to see any adult content in the main game. But yeah, if I come over here and show the actual gameplay, it's not a lot. It's just kind of throwing people against throwing people, so I'm going to say no to that. Games need to be good first, and then have lewd content second. This game needs more time. This game needs more time. Lotus Blossom here. I don't know if I want another single screen puzzle game. I also don't know how this game would actually work. But I'll give it some more time to think about it later. And then this game, I think, can just leave the fall list because this looks terrible. And then Lost Words. It's very positive. $5.99 English full audio. So I think that tells me that I should put that on the wish list. There you go. Alright, well, it's been 3 hours and 34 minutes. We've only had one network disconnect, and so we should leave it at that. That's going to be it for this stream. Hopefully by streaming very early, I can reset my insomnia sleep schedule a little bit, and we can on Monday be streaming maybe a little bit earlier than 8 or 9 in the evening, but not so early as starting at 6 or 7 in the morning either. Like right about now would be ideally where I would like to start streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but instead I'm about to fall asleep. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's going to be it. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon. Or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wish list or a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.